The day arrived, Tuesday, September 21st, 2027. Mark Thompson found himself not only in a new place, but also in a new country, a nation nearly 2,900 kilometers away from American Samoa, which he had left just a week earlier. This new land he was to call home was the Marshall Islands, one of the few atoll-based nations in the world. A country that had been under U.S. administration until 1979, and, before that, occupied by the Japanese. Majuro, the bustling capital and largest city, housed nearly half of the country's population of approximately 32,000. In the Marshall Islands, the primary language is Marshallese, also known as Iban, though many people speak English as well. But Mark wasn't here for the language. He was here for football, and not the American kind. Soccer in the Marshall Islands had little history. Before 2020, the sport was virtually non-existent. In 2022, however, the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation hired a British coach to build the foundation of a national soccer structure, including school and youth development programs. By 2023, a GoFundMe campaign had been launched to raise funds for equipment to grow the sport, with the ambitious goal of achieving FIFA membership by 2030. The country's premier league, the Marshall Islands Soccer League, was where Mark found his team. Just outside the capital Majuro, Mark's new team, Nutmeg Sub, was relatively new to the league, just like most of the teams in the nation. The league was an amateur one, started in 2023, and thus had a short history. In the 4 seasons played so far, the championships had been split between FC Swell, with 2 titles, and Spartans and Abai Fly, with 1 title each. Nutmeg's record over those 4 seasons was modest: 7th, 8th, 2nd, and 5th place finishes in a league of 8 teams. The league structure prioritized making the top 4 after 14 games to qualify for the playoff semifinals. When Mark took charge, only 4 games remained in the season, and Nutmeg still had a shot at breaking into the top 4. Mark's arrival coincided with a break in the season, giving him a few weeks to settle in and get to know his players before their first game on October 10th. Expectations were low. Neither the board nor the players anticipated much success this season, though a miracle would, of course, be welcome. Despite modest ambitions, Mark's presence invigorated the players. Together they looked toward a fresh direction, with hope that he could help them push that final step toward a playoff spot. If not this year, then in the seasons to come. October arrived, and so did Mark's first game. The Majuro Track and Field Stadium, the island's sole soccer venue, was a short drive from Mark's cozy apartment, nestled in Majuro's heart. In truth, the Marshall Islands had no big cities, with only a single main road circling about half of the atoll. The season opener was against Baco. Nutmeg conceded 3 goals before scoring a consolation, eventually losing 1-3. It was not the ideal start for Mark, but they had another game in 6 days. Their next match was against Spartans, and this time, things clicked. Nutmeg took control and triumphed with a resounding 3-0 victory. The win reinvigorated the team, though they now faced a long 15-day wait before their next game. Facing EB Fly, Nutmeg struggled once more, falling short in a 1-3 loss. The playoff dream grew more distant. With a 20-day break ahead, Mark had to devise a plan to secure a top 4 spot against all odds. On the eve of the last match, fortune smiled on Nutmeg. Spartans, one of their key rivals, lost, ending their season with 19 points. Nutmeg, with 20 points, held on to 4th place. No other teams were within reach, so the final game carried no pressure. Nutmeg was already in the playoffs. Their opponents? League-topping FC Swell, whom they had already drawn with earlier in the season. Against all odds, Nutmeg held out for another draw, scoring in the 93rd minute despite being a man down, finishing 1-1. 8 days later, Nutmeg faced FC Swell again in the semi-final, a high-stakes rematch. Nutmeg's Nikia Hunter scored in the 39th minute, and that single goal proved enough. Nutmeg had managed the impossible. They were in the final, knocking out the league leaders. The ultimate challenge awaited, a face-off with Ebi Fly. Ebi took the lead with a penalty in the 49th minute, and as the clock ticked down, Nutmeg's dream seemed to be slipping away. But in the 90th minute, Hunter struck again with a last-minute equalizer, sending the match to extra time. No goals were scored in the added period, so it came down to a penalty shootout. Both teams scored 3 penalties, but fate was cruel. Nutmeg's Nikia Hunter missed, and though eBay's Thompson missed as well, the final kick fell to Nutmeg's Knight. Unfortunately, the pressure proved too much. Knight missed, while eBay Fly clinched the win with their final penalty. Nutmeg had come heartbreakingly close, only to fall short at the last hurdle. Mark's first season was nothing short of dramatic. In just 6 games, he took Nutmeg to the playoff final, narrowly missing out on the trophy. Now he had 6 months to regroup and strategize. He'd likely take a bit of time off. After all, he hadn't yet had the chance to explore the Marshall Islands properly, but soon enough he'd be back to the grind alongside his team with the goal clear, to return next season and finish with the trophy.